So in this video, I'm going to show you how to install PyCharm. I'm using Windows. You can easily do this on Mac as well. You can go to the website. You have a Mac option available. You also have it for Linux. Now for Windows, you can go with the professional version. It comes with HTML support and a lot more support than the community one. But for what we need for this course, community works very well. I've been using it. It has a lot of features that we need. And it should be fine enough. I'm just gonna speed up the video. So once it's downloaded, it's a simple install. Just click next. I choose all the options here. So then it gives you the option to reboot. It's recommended to do that. So we're gonna do that here. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna launch PyCharm. I do not want to import any settings. We're gonna go with the new project. We don't have any project from before, and this is where it gets interesting, because why I prefer PyCharm is because it simplifies a lot of the work that you would have to do manually, and I'll show you how. The first is the project name. So I'm going to call it, let's say, project day one. What it allows you an option. There are multiple environments that you can use. I generally go with the virtual environment. The default one is because it allows you to separate environments for different projects. So all the dependencies which are required by this particular project will be installed along with this project. What that helps with is that it does not interact with a different project. So it doesn't interfere with the installation of a different project. So it keeps things isolated from each other, which really helps in the long run. Then you can choose a base interpreter. Notice that we did not install Python. And if you have a previously existing Python installation on your PC, you can point to that one. But if you don't, and this is again a good feature I like about PyCharm, is that it brings everything together. So it finds that you don't have Python installed. It gives you the latest versions that are available. I'm going to go with 3.8 because that's the most stable, at least because it has a lot of patches, so we can assume that it's stable. And then just leave the rest at default and click on create. Python is installed. It's now creating that virtual environment for your project to work on. Now, how do I know if Python is installed? I'll just go and check for installation of Python here. As you can see, 3.8 Python is installed. So we're also going to check for idle installation. It's not there at this point. So let's, oh, it is. So it's installed. So what is Python idle? Idle is nothing but an interactive shell from Python. So it's like a command line interface where you can test Python commands. Most of the times you will not write your code here, but if you want to test certain syntaxes, you can come and check if it's supported on that particular version of Python. A very simple one, and this would be probably your first code if you're doing this with this video, is, let's say I want to print hello world, right? So this is the syntax. We'll talk about this once we go through these statements. Then you just click on print and it prints that out for you. That means it's a valid command supported by Python, and if you write a code with this particular line, this is what it's going to be. I can add, let's say, values inside variables, and if I enter the name of that variable, it will give me back the result of what is stored inside that variable, right? That kind of stuff. So, but for our purposes, we will mostly be working on PyCharm. And what I really like about PyCharm is that it really brings everything that you need to write good code into one place, right? It gives you a folder structure, it gives you a place to write your code and a place to execute your code at the same time. Now, there are a lot of features inside PyCharm which we're not going to go into the details of it. We're only going to focus on things that we need to write good code, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what was required if PyCharm was not there, so that you have an understanding of how much does PyCharm really offer and simplify for us. So if I had to, let's say, create a project, what I would generally need to do is I would need to go to a folder and create those files that I needed to work with. In this example, let me just browse to the folder where PyCharm creates it so you see how it looks like. It's users, my folder, and then so it's PyCharm projects and the project that it created. And if you look inside that project, you will see that it created a file called main.py, and this is where you can write your program and run it. If you did not have PyCharm, what you would have to do is you would have to create your own folder. I would have to call it project manual, let's say, and then I would have to go here and I would have to create a file, and then I would have to call it day1.py. Py is the extension that Python files use. When you put them as py, they become Python executable. And for executing and testing them, you would have to come through command prompt, and then you would have to browse to this folder. You would have to come here, and then you would have to run something like this. So this is how you would run the command generally to troubleshoot. And then you would also need to write code on it, right? So you would need some sort of an editor. You could use the idle editor that comes with Python. It is very similar to Notepad, but it allows you to run the commands from the interpreter itself. So you could say, you could write on this file saying hello world, right? You could save it, and then you could run that module, right? So it gives you, it runs it in the IDE, and then it gives you the result. Now you can work without PyCharm. It's just that you'll have to do all of these things at individual places to be able to run it. And the more complex your code gets, the more you're working with files and directories, it becomes more complex to manage. With PyCharm, the first thing that you get is on the left side, you see a directory structure, right? So you can really easily manage your files. Let's say you don't like the file that Python created for you, what PyCharm created for you. You can just very easily delete this file and say, and you will see that in the actual folder, the file is deleted. So all the file management is offloaded, and it allows you to do that from here. I can just very easily now create a new Python file because PyCharm is aware of the interpreter. So you can create a Python file. I'll call it, let's say day1, and then that's it. So that's my first Python file right here. Now to execute is also easy because your shell is right here. So if you go here and click on terminal, you'll see the shell, and you can easily just execute the command, or you're already in this folder. So I can just say Python and then day1.py, and you will execute that file. Obviously it's empty at this point, so let's put something in there and say hello world. Again, the editor is right there in front of me, so I don't have to go to a different tab. I don't have to open a different software. I just do this, save the file, and then just run it, and you will see hello world right here. And then the console. So if you wanted to test, it's going to allow this access. And you can see that your console is also available right here. So you can run your commands. You can say a is equal to 1 and then just print a. So all of that is also available. It's just that one place to manage everything, and installation, virtual environments, all of that becomes quite easy when you're doing it with PyCharm. I hope this has been informative, and moving on to the next session.